Hey guys, in this video, I'm gonna walk you through how we built our high tunnel or off-grid greenhouse. It really is a high tunnel because we do not use any heat source to heat it other than what we get from the sunshine, which is trying to come out on me right now. Now, some of the reasons that you would want to put a high tunnel in is because if you live in a shorter growing season or a more northern climate, it really extends the amount of time that we're able to grow warm weather crops. So I grow my tomatoes and peppers and some of my basil in this high tunnel. Specifically, all of my tomato plants in a year's worth of tomato plants, meaning out of the 20 tomato plants that I grow in this high tunnel, I'm able to get enough harvest to preserve for a family of 4 all of our tomato needs for the entire year. So reasons for having a high tunnel is 1, to extend the growing season. 2, you can also seed start inside it depending upon the crop and what your outside temperatures are. Another advantage to having the high tunnel is not only if you have a cooler climate, does it allow you to create a warmer area to grow them, but for things that are really sensitive to blight or water issues, if you live in a really rainy area, like I do, the Pacific Northwest, where you traditionally will have a lot of overhead moisture coming down, using a high tunnel like this is going to create a barrier, obviously, so I'm not having rain and overhead watering happening on my plants. And so I've eliminated blight in my tomatoes, which is a pretty amazing thing. If you've ever dealt with blight, you know that once it hits, there's really no coming back from it with those plants. Let me know in the comments below if you have ever dealt with blight. It is so frustrating. And if you have or are planning on using or putting in a high tunnel or a greenhouse. A few key things to consider when you are choosing the spot to put in your high tunnel or in your greenhouse is 1, how close is it to your home? I like mine to be pretty close to the home because when I'm monitoring temperatures, when it's getting really warm during the day, but then the nights are coming when I need to make sure everything is closed up because it's going to be too cold for those plants to be out in the normal elements, I don't want to have to be traipsing way far back and forth. I want to be able to come out really quick, shut everything down, get it nice and warm. Same thing in the morning, have it close enough that I can monitor things, run out really quick if I need to open things up, if it's starting to get too hot. The other thing that you want to consider is, for me, I'm after getting as much of the sun, the solar heat possible that I can. So I have mine running from the east to the west so that it's taking full advantage. You can see the sun comes up over and is on this mountain ridge. That's my southern exposure. So that the broad side or the long side is getting the most of the sunlight so that it's going to trap all of that heat in there, because that is my main goal. So you also want to take into consideration how it's facing the sun on your property. So our high tunnel is 10 foot wide by 20 foot long. And what it actually is, what we use to construct this bad boy, is a frame. We bought it at Costco. I know you've seen these. They're kind of like carports. You can park a car under them. You can use them to put a boat over. And they usually come with some type of canvas over top of them. We purchased this. It is a metal frame, and we purchased this and use it to put our little boat underneath for years. And eventually that canvas that comes, it's kind of like a tarp material, it rotted. So this frame is over 15 years old, and it has been my high tunnel for over 6+ years. So I'm going to walk in up close to show you the actual construction and how we converted it. But this has been up for 6+ years with the same exact fasteners, everything that we've used, and the same greenhouse plastic. Now here in the Pacific Northwest, we do get some windstorms. I'm up in the foothills. We have had anywhere from 30 to 60+ mile-per-hour winds. We get snow. We had 3 feet of snow just in February that was on top of this, and it's went through all of the winters, all of the summers and the springs, all of those types of weather that we'll have. We don't get a huge amount of hail. We'll get a little hail. Now, not like some of y'all in the Midwest or down south, but we will get hail, a lot of rain. We do get some snowfall, freezes, and like I said, some wind. So I want you to know that this is pretty sturdy, and I've had it up for over 6 years. But I will share with you, we had the biggest windstorm this past fall that has ever hit this area, and it did bend my frame. So we've got some bracing, and we'll probably put a little bit of more bracing up, but it has withstood some pretty impressive weather. So I know a lot of people, now I'm not saying it's going to withstand, you know, a tornado or a hurricane, but it went through 70+ mph winds and has came out the other side and is still housing my tomato plants. So I like to look for something that you can reuse. And this is one, if you can find it, some type of metal, because we will be drilling into it as we put on our fasteners and the rest of the stuff. But this structure has worked great. The other thing that I like about it is it's a pitched roof. So one, I need it to be pitched so that the rain and the snow when we get it will slide off easily. And then two, I can walk all the way through it and not have to be stooped over. So when I'm planting and potting and spending time in there, it's really easy to move about. So we purchased greenhouse plastic, and you can see on the long ways here, there is no seaming. So this is all one solid piece of plastic. So whatever structure you're going to be putting it on, I would recommend ordering that plastic so that it can be done, greenhouse plastic specifically, can be done all the way without having to deal with a seam. So we attached to the ends here, you'll see 2x4s. So I have got a 2x4 right here, and we just screwed in because it's metal. And then alongside the bottom, so we came about 2 feet up from the bottom, and you're gonna see another 2x4 that goes the whole way. So this plastic that goes all the way up and over the roof, and it's the exact same way replicated on the other side. You'll see the 2x4 there on the bottom. So we purchased these fasteners. They're the same fasteners and the same wire, and we have it anchored right here. So these are really cool. So you anchor in this to the board that we put down here on the bottom, and this holds the plastic. And to undo these, and you can tell these have been here, and I don't ever take the plastic off from this side. These have been here for quite a while, but they go right in. Now on the other end, I can remove, and I need to, and see I don't even have this part anchored in, because during the day we're warm enough, I need some airflow right now, and I need to have good airflow going, and then at night I can button it up colder if it's going to freeze. But these are pretty easy. So you can see you just kind of go like that, and then you can put the plastic in or out. So then if I want to anchor this in, I can do so. But this also anchors in and holds it, and everything is the original. Like I said, this has been out in the weather for over 6 years. So this plastic is anchored, and this is just drilled right into the metal frame. So this isn't anchored to wood. I've got the wood above it. So it's anchored all along the bottom there. We've got a break in some of the sections, but on both ends, we've got that anchored there with the plastic. And that's the main plastic that goes all the way up and over. And then same thing, we have it anchored on the side here, and then I can also close this. And then we also have anchors up on both sides of the pitch. And we don't have any anchors holding the plastic on the top all the way out. So that's just laying over. So that's how we have it anchored, and that's provided enough to keep it in place, as I shared, for all those years. Now at the bottom, the reason we anchored it and we put a 2x4 running the entire length is because in the summertime, when we do have hot, sunny weather, if I did not have good airflow and a way for some of the heat to escape, it could easily get 120 degrees Fahrenheit or hotter, which is actually too hot for your plants. So this is extra. We just let the plastic go out longer, and then I've just got it anchored to a board here. So I can roll this up and then lift it. And then I have got where I've got more ventilation, and I can do that on both sides. So it'll add extra ventilation in there when I need it, when it gets too hot and I need airflow. And then I can just easily lower that down and keep it nice and snug when it's cool out. Now we also ran a 2x4 here so that I could get a lot of airflow and roll this part up, basically making a front door and a back door way to access and to really get that airflow going. So that is something that we just did the same thing. It's just on a larger scale, where we have got the plastic anchored to a 2x4 here. And then I've got baling twine, which, let me tell you, is a homesteader and a farmer's best friend. If you've got baling twine, it's just like duct tape. You're going to use it for everything. So we definitely reuse it. And I just got some baling twine looped around there. So then I can take this and I can roll it up. Keep your rolling with me. And then I can just take this baling twine. I've got a screw here. And I can just simply go like this. And then it's going to keep it up. And so then that'll keep that up for during the day. Of course, I have to do the other side so that we're even. And so then that will open that up and it'll get me some nice good airflow going in there when it's too hot. And then when it's cold, boom, I can just lower that back down. Now, how much temperatures, how does this affect everything that we're putting in there? You can see I've got behind me some of my seedlings. I've got lettuce that's been growing in here since February when we did have 3 feet of snow on the ground. I have had lettuce going in here. And you'll also see I've got some of my pepper and tomato starts that I'm starting to transplant out. Now, at the time of this recording, we are about 4 weeks out from being able to plant any warm weather crops just in the soil without any way of keeping them warm. Keep a thermometer when you are doing your warm weather crops and you're still having freezing temperatures. We were about 30, 32 degrees at our cold last night, which of course would wipe out tomatoes and peppers if they were not protected and kept a little bit warmer. So during the day, the actual outside temperature right now is about 60 degrees Fahrenheit, 58 right around in there. But the inside temperature, so I keep a thermometer in here, and then in the house I've got the actual spot where I can look at it and see what it is. The inside temperature in here, when there's a little bit of sun coming through, it's going to warm it up. It was 80 degrees in here so it's a 20 degree difference when the sun is out. Sometimes it can even be 25 degrees difference when it's in full sun, depending upon what it is outside. But at nighttime, it's usually about 5 degrees warmer. So if it is freezing out and you're hitting a 32 degrees where it's actually going to be a frost, I'm going to stay about 5 degrees above that at the coldest point of the night, and then it's going to quickly warm up. So you can see it's going to extend your growing season a little bit, but when you're in that iffy in-between period like we are right now, especially with tomatoes, you are going to have to keep a monitor on those temperatures. Now, using high tunnels and cold frames and different things like that to be able to extend the temperature to do things when it's not exactly ideal and still have them grow is one of my huge passions, because I love being able to push the envelope as much as possible and to just grow our own food when it's fresh for even longer. And we are open right now for enrollment within the Pioneering Today Academy. So if I didn't introduce myself, my name is Melissa K. Norris, and I'm the author of the book Handmade, the Made from Scratch Life, and also the founder of the Pioneering Today podcast and Academy. So the Academy is our membership, and you can only join right now. We have open enrollment through April 18th. So if you are watching this, I will have a link below the video, not only so that you can check out the Academy and see if it's for you, but also links to the exact place where we ordered our greenhouse fabric from, the fasteners, which I'm not an affiliate for or a sponsor in any way. It's just simply where we got all of our supplies, and I always have people ask me, well, where did you get those at? So I'll be sharing that below this video description for you. So I encourage you to check out the Academy, because we're going to be starting a new series in our gardening e-course that's diving in super deep to doing all kinds of different cold frames, some of them small, some of them larger, so that you can grow your food that much faster. Now, some of the other questions that I get asked is, how often do you move your high tunnel, or how do you have it anchored into the ground, and how do you practice crop rotation when you're planting tomatoes? Because if you're planting tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, potatoes, anything in the nightshade family, you know that best practices is to not put it in the same soil year after year. Otherwise, you're going to have a really high likelihood of contracting that they share the same diseases and the same pests, and losing your crops or not having as good of yield and health of those plants if you put them in the same soil year after year. And if it's in a regular open garden space like our regular vegetable garden, that is completely true, and I would never plant in the same soil. However, we're going on year 6, and because this was virgin soil, meaning it had never had anything, it was old pasture that just had grass and some trees and a little bit of forest in it, and when we got this property. And so I knew that there had never been any vegetable or fruit crops planted here, nothing in the tomato family. So when we first put this in, one, we just have it's down in the soil a little bit, so we kind of dug down around each leg and put it down in there, but I don't actually have anchors that are bolted to anything and that are then anchoring or bolting it into the ground. It is fairly heavy, and so we have not had any problem, like I said, with the exception of this past fall when we had 70+ mph winds, biggest winds that had ever came through here. What it did is it did pick it up a little bit, and then it kind of pushed it this way, and that's why you see it leaning a little bit this way. We haven't finished pulling it all the way back the other way. So it bent the metal a little bit, but it's still really sturdy and really solid, and so we're just gonna coax it back the other way with one more bracing. I just haven't got there yet, and I wanted to share this video with you because I've been getting a lot of questions about our high tunnel and how we use it. So in full disclosure, I have put my tomatoes back in the ground inside this greenhouse for 6 years straight, but it never gets overhead watering. It never gets rain. I use soaker hoses. So I know that there's never been any type of disease or fungal issue in the soil or with the plants going in. So because it's in this kind of enclosed protected environment, I do take a gamble and still use the same soil. Of course, I'm adding amendments to it all the time from our chickens and the compost pile and all that kind of thing. And I go into that a lot in depth inside our academy in our tomato video. But if we did decide something happened and we're like, we do need to move it, or there was disease that came in the tomato plants and I'm like, I just can't put them in the same soil this year, you can have two people, so my husband and I together, we can lift this up and move it. We'd have to work each leg a little bit free, obviously, before, but we would be able to pick it up and we would be able to move it. So you can move it, but we haven't found the need to in the 6 years that we've had it. If you have enjoyed this video, make sure that you hit that little bell and hit subscribe so that every Wednesday when we put up new videos, you get notified. And if you've got any more questions regarding our high tunnel or our off-grid greenhouse, please put your comment down below and I will make sure and answer it. So thank you so much. I cannot wait to hear about what you're growing and what type of cold protection or high tunnel or greenhouse that you have or are planning to put in.